Medieval India, chapter number 6, page number 53. Internal rebellions and the struggle for territorial consolidation of the Delhi Sultanate. During the rule of Ilbari Turks, sometimes called the Mameluke or slave rulers, the sultans of Delhi had to face not only internal dissensions and foreign invasions, but internal rebellions as well. Some of these rebellions were led by ambitious Muslim chiefs who wanted to become independent. Others were led by Rajput Rajas and Zamindars who were eager to expel the Turkish invaders from their territories or to exploit the difficulties of the Turkish rulers and to aggrandize themselves at the expense of their weaker neighbors. Thus, these Rajas and Zamindars not only fought against the Turks but against each other as well. The nature of the objectives of the various internal rebellions differed. Hence, it is not correct to lump them together as Hindu resistance. India was a big country, and due to the geographical factors, it was difficult to rule the country effectively from one center. Provincial governors had to be given a large amount of autonomy, and this combined with local sentiments, which were always strong, encouraged them to repudiate the control of Delhi and declare themselves independent. Local rulers could count on regional sentiments to rally opposition to the rule of Delhi. It is not necessary to list all the rebellions against sultans of Delhi. The eastern region of India, which included Bengal and Bihar, strove continuously to throw off the yoke of Delhi. It has been noted in an earlier chapter how the Khalji chief Muhammad bin Bakhtiyar Khalji succeeded in expelling the Sena king Lakshmana Sena from Nadia. After some confusion, a person called Iwaz, who took the title of Ghyasuddin Sultan, began to function as an independent ruler there. Taking advantage of Iltutmish's preoccupation in the northwest, he extended his authority over Bihar and exacted tribute from the ruler of Jajnagar, Odisha, Tirhut, North Bengal, Bang, East Bengal, and Kamrup, Assam. When Iltutmish was free from his preoccupations in 1225, he marched against Iwaz. Iwaz submitted at first, then asserted his independence once Iltutmish had turned his back. A son of Iltutmish, who was the governor of Awadh, defeated and in a battle killed Iwaz. However, affairs continued to be confused till Iltutmish led a second expedition in 1230. After the death of Iltutmish, the governors of Bengal sometimes asserted their independence and sometimes submitted to the Delhi according to their convenience. During this period, Bihar generally remained under the control of Lakhnauti. The governors who acted as independent rulers tried, though without much success, to bring Awadh and Kara, Manikpur, etc., that is, the areas between Awadh and Bihar, under their control. They also attempted to extend their rule over Radha, South Bengal, Odisha, and Kamrup, Assam. In this conflict, the rulers of Odisha and Assam more than held their own. In 1244, the ruler of Odisha badly defeated the Muslim forces near Lakhnauti. Subsequent efforts of the Muslims against Jajnagar and the capital of Odisha also failed. This showed that the independent Muslim rulers of Lakhnauti were not strong enough to bring the neighboring Hindu areas under their control. With the emergence of a strong ruler in the person of Balban, Delhi was eager to reassert its control over Bihar and Bengal. A former allegiance to Delhi was not enough any longer. Tughril, who had submitted to Balban and then asserted his independence, was hunted down by Balban 1280. Savage punishment was given by Balban to Tughril's family members and followers. This campaign was lasted which lasted 3 years, was the only distant campaign undertaken by Balban. However, Delhi could not keep control over Bengal for long. After Balban's death, his son Bughra Khan, who had been appointed the governor of Bengal, preferred to rule over that part rather than stake his life for the throne of Delhi. He therefore assumed independence and set up a dynasty which ruled over Bengal for the next 40 years. Thus, Bengal and Bihar remained outside the control of Delhi during the greater part of 13th century. The bulk of Punjab too had passed under the control of Mongols. The Turkish rule was not fully secure even in the Ganga Doab. The Katheria Rajputs, who had their capital at Achij Chatra across the Ganga, were forced to be reckoned with. They frequently raided the district of Badon. Finally, after his accession, Balban led a large force which resorted to large-scale massacre and the wholesale plunder. The district was almost depopulated, jungles were cleared and roads built. Barani records that from that date the Iktas of Baran, Amroha, Sambhal and Katehar in modern West UP were rendered safe and permanently freed from any trouble. The southern and western frontier of the Delhi Sultanate was also not fully secure. The problem here was twofold. Under Aybak, the Turks had captured the chain of forts of Tijara, Alwar, Bayana, Gwalior, Kalinjar, etc. They had overrun parts of eastern Rajasthan extending up to Ranthambore, Nagpur, Ajmer and Nandol near Jalore. Most of these areas had one time belonged to the Chauhan Empire and were still being ruled by Chauhan families. Aybak's operation against them were thus a part of campaign against the Chauhan Empire. However, in the subsequent period, far from advancing into Malwa and Gujarat, the Turks were hard put to defend their gains in eastern Rajasthan and even to maintain their hold on the redoubts defending Delhi and the Gangetic region. Taking advantage of Iltutmish's preoccupations with northwest, the Rajput Rajas had recovered Kalinjar, Gwalior and Bayana. Many other principalities including Ranthambore and Jalore repudiated Turkish suzerainty. From 1226, Iltutmish commenced operations to recover his control over these areas. Ranthambore, he first invested Ranthambore and compelled the rulers to accept Turkish suzerainty. He also captured Jalore, which was en route to Gujarat. The efforts of Iltutmish to extend his control over Gujarat and Malwa, however, failed. The Chalukyas of Gujarat repulsed an attack by Iltutmish. The Parmaras of Malwa were also too strong for the Turks. Iltutmish, however, made a raid into Malwa and plundered Ujjain and Raisena. One of his generals also raided Bundi. In the east, Iltutmish recovered Bayana and Gwalior, but was unable to make much headway against the Rajputs of Baghelkhand. The Turkish control over eastern Rajputana was again shaken in the confusion following Iltutmish's death. Many Rajput rulers threw off Turkish suzerainty. The fort of Gwalior was also lost. The Bhati Rajputs, who were entrenched in the area of Mewat, isolated Bayana and extended their depredations up to the outskirts of Delhi. But Ajmer and Nagaur remained under the Turkish control. Balban's attempt to conquer Ranthambore and to recover Gwalior failed. However, he subdued Mewat ruthlessly so that Delhi remained secure from Mewati inroads for almost 100 years. Ajmer and Nagaur continued to remain under the firm control of the Delhi Sultanate. Balban thus consolidated the Turkish rule in eastern Rajasthan. Despite his other preoccupations, the continuous fighting among the Rajput rulers also aided the Turks and made impossible any effective combination of the Rajputs against them. The establishment of a strong monarchy, the repealing of Mongol invaders, and the consolidation of a territory of Delhi Sultanate in the Ganga Doab and control over eastern Rajasthan paved the way for the next step in history of Delhi Sultanate, viz. Its expansion into Western India and the Deccan. Thank you everyone for tuning in. In the next part, we'll start with chapter number 7, the Delhi Sultanate part 2. Thank you and all the best for exams. Do share and subscribe the channel for more videos like this. Thank you everyone.